Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm Father Jim Korda. Wineskins is a program that features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with a variety of issues and topics, all from a Catholic perspective. Wineskins is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our program today, I will interview Bishop David Bonnar in part 3 from the series With the Father's Heart. We will also hear more information on St. Aloysius Gonzaga, and today, as the Church celebrates a 12th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will get a deeper insight into those particular Sunday readings. That and more on Wineskins. Catholic Charities is an important part of the life of the Church and her members. To share with us an important issue is George Garchar. With me is George Garchar, who for the last 8 years has been the Executive Director of Catholic Charities for Portage and Stark counties. Welcome back to Wineskins.
Nice to be here, Father Korda.
You know, George, it seems like the last several times that you've been here, we've been in the midst of this pandemic, but we're moving out of that and moving into, hopefully, light at the end of this tunnel. What have been some of those services that your Catholic Charities has provided that really might have ceased, but really is kind of transitioning into a new time, or those that you've continued to provide people?
Oh, we've continued to do our core services, so food pantry, utility assistance, rent assistance, those kinds of things. Of course, we've modified how we've delivered those. Much of what we used to do in person has been remote, either online or by phone. Certainly food pantry, that can't be done, but we modified those as well. So we went, for example, from walk-ins at Portage Pantry to appointment only to manage the flow, and just arranged it so that there's as little sort of direct contact as possible. So, but those things have continued. There have been a few programs or ministries that we've really not been able to deliver during the pandemic, but we're beginning to look at ways to, reinstitute those either remotely or hopefully soon even in person. Just as a couple of examples, in Canton we had a program called Stark Pathways to Success, where we help individuals who were attending college or community college, but that had life issues, maybe some personal issues, and we sort of had a material assistance, both financial assistance, but also a peer support group and education that went along with that. So we're hoping to restart that. In Portage County, we have tried to provide special assistance to foster care parents and kinship care parents, or kinship caregivers, I should say. And along with that, we had, a peer support group that was meeting, a small group. We stopped doing that in person. So those are the kinds of things we're looking forward to restarting again.
You know, George, you've been part of Catholic Charities for over 20 years. The need really kind of hasn't changed. It's almost gotten more and more dire. Why is that? Why do we still see ourselves reaching out and helping people?
Yeah, I guess it goes back to the, Jesus's, the poor will always be with us. I think there's, that's just something that I'm not sure that we'll ever quite get over that hump. But in terms of the numbers, certainly the pandemic drove the numbers upwards, although the help also increased. And so in some ways, for instance, utility assistance, our numbers of providing that assistance actually dropped to some degree because there was so much other federal funding flowing into other providers. So it's sort of been a mixed bag and obviously a strange time in many ways. We also try to provide services and do programming that looks long-term so that we move people from a circumstance of dependency into a more stable environment. But it's just a constant struggle to do that.
You know, George, you're going to be back with us in October, and you're really kind of transitioning out of the position into retirement or semi-retirement.
Right.
What do you see yourself doing in response to reaching out to people still in this transition period for yourself?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I don't really have an answer yet. I think it's important for me personally, and I've heard other people say this, to take some time just to sort of discern, what would be best for me and be open to God's call in that regard. But I don't have definite plans. I can't see myself not being involved in some way, though, so we shall see.
And what would you like to tell the folks that are with us, especially those who contribute generously to the Bishop's Appeal?
Just first of all, thank you so much for your support. Again, during the pandemic, we've had people really step up, people that have received their stimulus checks and felt that they really didn't need that money, made larger than usual contributions, both to the bishop's appeal and then to specific, other specific fundraising activities. So mostly thank you. And, know that your assistance, we always do our best to use that in a prudent and be good stewards of those funds.
Well, George Garchar, we certainly thank you for your presence and for your ministry in Portage and Stark counties in particular. And we look forward to seeing you back here in October.
Very good. Thanks.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. St. Aloysius Gonzaga was a religious. To tell us more is Jacquet. He is from St. Brendan Church in Youngstown.
St. Aloysius Gonzaga was a saintly seminarian who died in Rome in 1591 and was canonized in 1726. He was born of a noble family in Italy, and his father earnestly wanted him to be a soldier. At the age of 10, Aloysius consecrated himself to God with a vow of virginity. He received his first Holy Communion at the age of 12 from the hands of St. Charles Borromeo. On November 25, 1585, he entered the Jesuit novitiate in Rome. He lived there for 6 years with St. Robert Bellarmine as his spiritual director. He received his minor orders at St. John Lateran and continued to prepare himself for the priesthood, dreaming of the foreign missions and even martyrdom. During the plague of 1591, he nursed the sick, and like several other members of the Jesuit community, he contracted the disease, but he never recovered from it. He died at midnight between June 20th and 21st with the name of Jesus on his lips. The revised prayers of the Mass refer to 3 characteristics of this young Jesuit, who Pope Pius XI named Patron of Youth in 1926. First of all, the opening prayer states that in St. Aloysius, God, quote, combined remarkable innocence with the spirit of penance, unquote. We then ask that we, who have not followed his innocence, may follow his example of penance. Although Aloysius accused himself of being a sinner, the fact is that he never stained his baptismal innocence. He followed a schedule of austerity and mortification from which he did not deviate even when he served at court. After he entered the Society of Jesus, he became even more austere. In the prayer over the gifts, we find a second characteristic of Aloysius. We ask that we may always come to the Eucharist with hearts free from sin. The Latin version of this prayer speaks of the wedding garment of St. Aloysius. Hence, the second characteristic of St. Aloysius is that he was clothed in charity. So intense was his love of God that he frequently fell into ecstasy, not only in the chapel, but sometimes at meals or during the recreation period. This same charity prompted him to serve the sick and the needy, and to have a preference for the poor and the lowly in spite of his noble heritage. The third characteristic is in the prayer after communion, where, after referring to the bread of life, we ask that we may serve God without sin and spend our lives in thanksgiving. The description of Aloysius as angelic in the former liturgy has been omitted so that the young saint would appear more human and not ingeniously innocent. In a letter to his mother in the Office of Readings, after speaking of his impending death, he concludes, "I write all this with the one desire that you and all my family may consider my departure a joy and favor, and that you especially may speed with a mother's blessing my passage across the waters till I reach the shore to which all hope belongs." The opening prayer of the Mass reads, "Father of love, giver of all good things." In St. Aloysius you combine remarkable innocence with the spirit of penance. By the help of his prayers, may we who have not followed his innocence follow his example of penance. For Wineskins, I'm Jacquet.
I'm talking with Bishop David Bonnar. Bishop, before we get into a final segment of our show today and talk about those 5 priorities that really make up the ending of your pastoral letter, which are crucial, I noticed that throughout it you quoted Pope Francis and his apostolic exhortation that he wrote in 2013, Joy of the Gospel. Tell us why that was so important to you.
Well, before I was ordained a bishop, I had to go on a retreat. And because of COVID and all the pandemic protocols, it was very hard to find a retreat center that would be open and where you could have meals. So I did a private retreat here in Youngstown at the residence where I now live before this all went down January 12th. And for that retreat, I invited my brother bishops who hail from Pittsburgh and who many of them serve outside of Pittsburgh now to just prepare for me any thoughts, advice, reflections that would be good fodder for a retreat. And one of the bishops suggested that I read The Joy of the Gospel and said, it's a landmark document for parish life. Sure. That was the second time I read the document cover to cover, and it really left an imprint upon my heart. And as you can see, it does ripple throughout the document. So I think that the insights of our Holy Father are just so profound, and they have such meaning for us.
You know, the Latin of the document is Evangelii Gaudium. So that Evangelii, obviously the gospel, but there's that greater word that we understand is evangelist. You know, we shy away from that oftentimes. I remember in the 70s, that was something that we never talked about as Catholics because that was associated with Protestant preachers on television. But we are all called to be evangelists. Why is that so crucial for us, not only in the continuing of our faith, but for the nurturing of our own faith?
Absolutely. Both of what you said is spot on. We want to continue the faith, but we also want to be nourished in the faith for ourselves, not only individually, but as a community. That whole call to evangelize, or to say it in a different way, to be missionaries, to be missionary disciples, as our Holy Father says, is what it's all about to be a Catholic. And within the document itself, one of the themes I really try to hit hard on is the fact that we're all called to be evangelizers. And it begins at home. It begins at home with our family. It begins in our parishes. And it's important that we have a comfort level sharing our faith, speaking about the tender parts of our hearts, how we feel touched and inspired by Jesus and the saints and our rich tradition. Because if we cannot do that within our families, within our communities, how can we ever do that boldly out in the world? And so I'm inviting staffs to spend time before their staff meetings to pray Lectio Divina, to share their faith. I call for the formation of small faith groups that will give people a forum to share their faith. All of this with the idea that they will go forth and be missionary disciples, because evangelization is not a program. And I think people want a quick fix. Let's get this program, let's get that program. Evangelization is a work that demands one-on-one effort, day in and day out. And we're all called to be evangelizers. It's just like when I used to be the vocation director, I think there was a perception that, oh, it was just my responsibility to promote priesthood and recruit priests. But that work is a shared responsibility among all priests and among all the faithful. It's the same with evangelization.
Bishop, in your pastoral letter, there are 5 priorities. We've got about 4 minutes left, so we're probably not going to cover all of them at length, but I'm going to mention them: prayer, healing, communication, service, and joyful witness. Would there be one that you would highlight? And once we do that, we'll talk about some others as time permits.
Well, certainly everything that we do has to be grounded in prayer. We have to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And that prayer is at times private, but it's also meant to be communal and celebratory. So we need to root everything that we are and everything that we aspire to be in prayer. I know that some of us are hurting. There's fractures in our families, in our communities. We need healing. And so we need to turn to all the avenues to seek that healing. And it's so important that we communicate. And communication is not just talking, giving our 2 cents worth, getting something off our chest. It's listening. That's why silence is so important, because we need to listen deeply. And silence provides a wonderful environment to listen. And of course, service. We need to be a servant church. We can't exist just for ourselves. Jesus came not to be served, but to serve others. And lastly, and this is the one that I would want to leave everyone with, is all this work, all this missionary effort, we have to do it joyfully, with smiles on our faces. We need to be happy about the faith. I remember many years ago, teaching a class, and someone brought in an image of a laughing, smiling Jesus. And one person took great exception with it. How could Jesus laugh or smile given all of our sinfulness? Well, remember, Jesus is divine and human, and joy is a gift. And I think that's the beauty of Pope Francis's document, the joy of the gospel. We need to notify our faces what's in our hearts and radiate that joy to the world.
And of course, you really conclude your pastoral letter with an intercession to the Blessed Mother and also celebrating this year of St. Joseph. How do both of them, as components of the Holy Family, really help us in this local family that we call the Diocese of Youngstown, with our own personal families at home or in church, and also for our own personal life?
Well, Mary and Joseph both leave footprints of faith and trust. They give us a roadmap of what it is to be a disciple, what it is to be a follower of Jesus. I would underline that they do it in a humble way. Humility. It's not about them. It's about serving God's will. And so they are just a powerful model for us in this day and age.
Bishop, we certainly appreciate your presence on our show today with the Father's Heart. For the folks that are with us that haven't had a chance to read the pastoral letter, Testify to the Light, they can go to the diocesan website at doi.org and read it. And if they would like a copy, I'm sure a copy could be made available to them. So thank you again for your presence on our show today.
Thank you, Father Korda.
And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you. For more pertinent information and to listen to Wineskins, visit www.doi.org, the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Mothers and fathers help shape the lives of children God has blessed them with. Catholic Charities feels Mother's Day to Father's Day is the perfect time to hold the annual First Step for Change campaign. First Step for Change helps provide assistance to low-income pregnant women and families with young children in obtaining infant supplies such as formula, diapers, and clothing, as well as case management and parenting support. Last year, Catholic Charities' First Step programs assisted over 600 households. Please support the collection at your parish this year from Sunday, May 9th through Sunday, June 20th, or donate online at www.ccdoi.org or call the diocese for more information at 330-744-8451, extension 323.
Hello, I'm Bishop Dave Bonnar, the Bishop of Youngstown. Today, I come before you for my first Bishop's Appeal. These monies help to support the poorest of the poor. They help us with our religious education programs, schools, and parishes. I ask you to give according to your circumstances and to know that your gift is greatly appreciated by all the people in this local church. Thank you, and God bless you.
To learn more about the Bishop's Appeal or to make a donation, visit doi.org.
Christopher Minutes, thoughts on making every day count. Here's Monsignor Jim Lisanti.
Hello, friends. Owen Bradford Butler had a knack for sales. His talent propelled him up the corporate ladder at Procter & Gamble till he became chairman of the board. But Mr. Butler believed that he should use his skills for more than just personal career advancement. In particular, he had an interest in early childhood development. Mr. Butler became a passionate advocate for children, often speaking out on corporate America's responsibility to support their development. Today, Bright Beginnings, the program he helped create in Colorado, brings an increasing number of newborns and their moms support each year. My friends, if your talents bring you success, it's important to give something back to the community. Whenever you help someone in need, you create a brighter future for them and for yourself.
Our song today is from the CD called Simple Truth. It is by David Kauffman and can be found at goodforthesoulmusic.com.
Life moves faster than I can measure, carries me farther than I want to go. Sometimes I take a look around me, wishing I knew where I place my hope. Losing the center of my life, and I lift my heart up and cry. Feed the forgotten soul in me. Give me the water of your life. Teach me to drink from it and be revived. I hunger for more of you each day. I thirst for your wisdom and your way. Father, please hear my prayer. I sing aloud. Emptiness, my defeat. Even when I feel complete, I need you still. As strong as I pretend to be, there's a space inside of me that needs to be filled. Help me to find you deep within, 'cause this is where life begins. Feed the forgotten soul in me. Give me the water of your life. Teach me to drink from it and be revived. I hunger for more of you each day. I thirst for your wisdom and your ways. Father, please hear my prayer. I sing aloud. Just to know the sound of your voice, just to know you live inside, just to know your perfect love will heal me. Feed the forgotten soul in me. Give me the water of your life. Teach me to drink from it and be revived. I hunger for more of you each day. I thirst for your wisdom and your ways. Father, please hear my prayer. I sing aloud. Feel the forgotten soul in me. Give me the water of your life. Teach me to drink from it and be revived. I hunger for more of you each day. I thirst for your wisdom and your ways. Father, please hear my prayer. I sing aloud.
As we celebrate this 12th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will hear more about the sacred scriptures by Father Ryan Furlong. He is a parochial vicar at St. Charles Church in Boardman.
Today in the Gospel, we see that Jesus calms the storm. The apostles, those following Jesus, are scared of the high winds. They are scared of the rushing seas. But Jesus assures them that He is there. He says to them to be faithful. He calms the storm. What is causing the storm in our life? What is it that Jesus needs to calm? If we believe that He is with us, He can help us through any storm. Sometimes in life, we will get things that cause us great burdens. We will get things that cause us great emotional trauma. We will have many crosses in our life. These are the various storms that the world sends us. But Jesus asks us to simply trust in Him. Sometimes the greatest prayer, the greatest offering we can give to God is to trust Him. He is always with us. And if we believe that He is the Son of God, if we believe that He is divine, and if we believe that He created us and He loves us, there is no storm which He cannot help us through. We just need to believe. And that's what He asked the apostles today, to trust Him, to believe in Him, to know that He is with them. And when we believe that Jesus Christ is with us, when we believe that He can get us through any cross, any battle, we will have the strength and the confidence to persevere. We will have the strength and the confidence to love others in the face of scrutiny. We will have the strength and the confidence to move forward in times of strife. We will have the faith and the confidence to know that Jesus died for me, and through Him I have salvation. No matter what the world brings us, no matter what storm we have in our life, know that Jesus is always there to calm that storm and to renew trust and faith in Him. For Wineskins, I'm Father Ryan Furlong.
Much of life is lived between total fear and total faith, often in floundering with high winds and rough waves. How has the Lord calmed the troubled seas of life for us and kept us from sinking lower into despair? Wineskins is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. It is brought to you by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda, wishing you a beautiful week. And we of CTNY want to wish all of the dads that are with us a happy and blessed Father's Day.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.